everybody got all the answers they need. My goodness. Anybody want to share?
Okay.
Okay, so what's your what?
My what is writing my book.
What's your book about?
About the power of connect to change the world.
Sweet. So what's been going on that's been stopping you from
What's
writing?
stopping me?
Yeah.
And I don't put it on as a priority. I start and I stop.
Okay.
And I think it's, part of it is maybe not seeing it as of importance or value enough. That my message isn't as important or valuable enough to put out there yet. So I've got other things to do.
Okay, so there's a little yeah that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And who would be served by having this book?
Oh, everyone.
So would you agree that it is an important message?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting rid of the monkeys upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the big whys for you then around that? That will help you step into it?
I think it's being able to change people on a level they've never felt before. And through some of the experiences that I'm having, like it's just, like, you know, you're telling your story, but it's showing up in my life magnified.
Yeah.
And it's like, go with it. And it's showing up not just because I'm so driven business-wise. It's all about business, but all of a sudden, there's this new wave of, it's not only business, but I'm changing community, I'm changing nonprofit, I'm changing individuals. I'm being called to do things I never thought would come to me. And all of a sudden, but it's related to connecting, and that's my gift. So, yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling there? Are you ready to, are you, the last step, what's the next step?
Yeah, commit to journaling in the morning, because that's when I'm best, that's when I'm on.
Okay.
To commit to buying a journal just when I book and start scripting it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hoo-ha! How's that? Pretty powerful for 10 minutes of really focusing.
Yeah.
And it's just really giving yourself permission. Right? It's letting go of that whole doubt. You know, you may not have ever written a book before. And I'm writing a book as well, and you know, I should have been doing that exercise too, because it's been put off so I can do some other things. And what's really powerful, Denise, and thank you for sharing, is that it's there, isn't it? And it's like you're not able, it's like so in your, it starts to get so in your face. Once you're kind of even getting closer, it starts to get more in your face. It's kind of like, and people will come by, it's like you can see by who shows up, how much is needed. I'm really, with your permission, I'm ready to keep in touch with you and see where your progress is.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Anyone else want to share? I'm going to share something that is an example. Do you mind if I share our experience?
Please go ahead, if it will help somebody.
I think it's so powerful. And it's an example of what Denise is talking about. So Christine and I've been in this beautiful house that you saw for 9 months, walking dogs every day past Christine's driveway, but never a sign of Christine. So for all I knew, she was the phantom Mrs. Pfeiffer living in the house that was 2 doors down. And I had no idea of this kindred spirit that was living like a stone's throw away from me. So one day, Spirit sent a moose over to start things moving. And I'm walking home with my dogs, and there's this people waving and saying, get the dogs in, because there's these moose out there, and we're worried that the dogs are going to get hurt. Which is fine, we get the dogs inside so much for that idea. I had this brief connection, but it wasn't a powerful connection to Christine, but we had sight, there was, something had shifted in the universe. Now my perception of this neighbor was that she actually had a face. And there was moose in the yard, but it wasn't really, you know, I didn't go home and go to bed all excited about having seen the neighbor. And yet a couple days later, maybe a week later, I'm coming home and she's in the yard, so I stopped. Now what's fascinating to me is the timing of things, like how precise Spirit is. Because in order for me to actually catch her in both of those occurrences, I had to leave home at a certain time. So it's like, I'm going to walk the dogs. Oh, I should do this first. I'm going to do this, then I'll go walk the dog. So my plans are never all that structured. You know, it's not like at 8:30 every morning I go walk the dogs. It's all over the place. So the next, I come home and Christine's in the yard, so I decide to have a little chat. And I ask about the moose, so there's a nice little opening. And all of a sudden, it's like we're starting to talk about things, and I am like, oh my goodness, I'm coming over there. I'm coming around the fence. I gotta come and talk to this beautiful woman. And we have this magnificent conversation. It's like two soul sisters meeting. And Christine shares to me, I've written these poetries, and I'd love to give you a copy of my poetry. And I think that's pretty cool. And her husband's standing there and saying, yeah, the best stuff is in boxes. So the next Saturday morning, I'm walking by with the dogs, and Christine's out and says, I have my book if you want to come see it. And I said, I'll drop the dogs off and come back and see it. And she gives me this beautiful book, and we sit on her deck. And she's telling me, you know, Ariana, my poetry's out there, and I'm thinking, can't be more out there than I am. So I open the book, and she's talking, and I'm glancing down, and I start to cry. I'd like to share that poem with you. It's called The Woman in the Moon. One small step away from success, and she must in a dark way confess. The stage is ready, set, go. And how will the audience ever know that she cried under the light of the moon? That she was one step away from giving up too soon. The moonlight ladder invites us all to climb to a place where we move to the rhythm of the lunar rhyme. And that whole, it was just so magical, because there's other poems in here that didn't actually resonate with me at that level. There's other amazing poems, but that one is exactly, it opened. There was no bookmark, there was nothing there. It just opened at that page. And this beautiful, beautiful picture. And there's this amazing poet and kindred soul living right beside me. And I share that story because I so believe in spirits knowing when the time is right. So for 9 months, I wasn't ready to hear that poem. And for 9 months, she wasn't ready to meet me either. But when the time was right, it was masterfully executed. It is so amazing to me what can happen when the time is right, when everything's in place. And there's a spirit that's wanting a little bit of assistance on its journey. Both me and this beautiful poet that sits within us around. And my sense is that there's a world waiting for her poetry. That this is not a single poem. That there's many amazing poems like your stories. We don't know who's waiting to hear that message. But there's something profound when we actually open our hearts and share it and trust that the universe has its own ideas about what needs to be done next, what step needs to be done yet. So here is Christine. She's taken a step. Who knows where that step will go, but she's here tonight. And as you're here tonight, in whatever way. Georgette, does anyone else actually want to share what they wrote down?
Well, I was here last time, and I have a book underway about my childhood, and I wrote that last week. Lots of things to do, but I've had a very difficult. I've probably had the worst year of my life physically, and I've had diabetic ulcers, and they're the worst thing I've ever had. So I wrote face my health issues, especially my heart issues, my diabetes, and my fitness struggles. I also very badly hurt my Achilles. And I think, so I wrote, what's stopping me? Exhaustion. Because I have a crazy life besides too involved with all these grandchildren. So, overcoming my fear of pain. Like I try not to push myself too hard because I don't want to hurt any more than I already do. I believe I'm too fragile to go full tilt on a complete renewal of my physical body. And that's a bad belief, right? Because I know I do pamper myself physically because I'm afraid of getting more hurt than I am, right? Than I am now, and more decrepit. And I'm afraid of injuring myself. And I actively avoid pain as much as possible. So I'm my own worst enemy. Really, it's so easy to see this and write it down, right? It's the next step of it. And I'm a very lucky person. I've had a great life. So, but the why is I will be able to get back on my horse with immense stores of everything that I can do. One is that I'm in a book, and I told them about a project that I wanted to do, and at the time I knew I was getting the $5 million. But then I, fell away from it. I still would like to do it before I die. I could travel to my beloved Maltese friends. I don't want to go too far. Like there's so many things that hold you back. I'd like to be fully present for my wonderful husband, my children, my grandchildren, and my amazing friends. Very much so. So it's interesting because how can I take the first step? It's not. I can, clear spoken intention to face fear of hurting myself, becoming more disabled than housebound. So that's why I don't want to do it. Why I want to, right? Isn't that an interesting thing that I would write that instead of, why I don't have to do the first step. I mean, it's interesting how, as I look at it.
Can I, permission to comment? What was your first statement?
Where?
First statement that you wrote down?
Face my health issues.
Okay, I thought you wrote something about a book.
Oh, that was last time.
Oh, that was the last time. Okay, well, no, I'm just checking because that actually is. I'm actually going to say that you actually said that first. Is everybody remember?
Yeah.
And I'm going to just encourage you to go back to that other sheet. And yes, it's like there's some validity here in this, but I want you to actually be open to going back to the sheet we did last time and to look at. I'm just saying, because it came out first when you weren't expecting it, you weren't planning it, it was what you said. And as a coach, it's like picking up on sometimes it's the red herrings. And there's nothing wrong with what you're saying in terms of...
Well, it's interesting because I have actually started making plans about it. We have 6 grandchildren and 3 children. So our youngest daughter and her two beautiful granddaughters are living in our walkout basement where we just finished so they can move in. Our son is selling his house and Quinnell, and he's moving here. He's going to spend the next 6 weeks with us. And our oldest daughter has a home in Christina Lake, and her children live there with her husband, and she goes back and forth during on the weekends. She lives in the kids' bedroom, as we like to call it. And,
Stop feeding them cheese.
Well, I could make the comment that you have lots of help, so you have some extra time now, because you've got all these hands to
I've got so much
everything.
stuff in our house that, because we had to take I've been married for 47 years to this most wonderful human being. two pack rats should not live together.
Dumpsters, there's undone, you can put the dumpster on the
So
phone
we
in
have a
10
three-car
minutes.
garage.
Put it in your
Because I
driveway.
thought it was in the basement.
Yeah, put it all on something.
Okay, so we're digressing into some
Okay,
fun
but
here,
my
but I'm
point is-
Tiles are important, I think.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah.
But the point is,
It's
I
easy to-
wrote that
to,
because it is important to me. Now I had a death experience 2 years ago, and I
Okay, Georgia.
said then,
I
I was
recall
going
time
to write the
about
book, right? And I've been putting it off and this and that. But I actually think I need to get healthier to get the book done. That was my point.
Okay,
So I'll shut
I'm gonna, well, no, I'm just gonna time out because when there's a, let me just tune in, there's this, what I perceive, because I actually know most of this already, and I'd like you to look at, is where you're second in the list of all those things going on.
Oh, I know.
And I don't need you to reply right now, but I actually want you to be creative with what is there in your life. So if all those people are around, then they can cook, and they can look after you, and you can actually say to them that I'm important enough and I need to have 2 hours a day to write. So there's still decisions that you can make. And I'm just going to encourage you to actually start to look at Georgette, because you are the eternal mother. And everybody is used to you being the mother and looking after things. So it's just a thought that it might be valuable for you to actually request of them to hold you to a commitment to sit down and actually start to write, because you've talked about this book.
Well, I have
for a long
started
time.
it. I've got quite a
Oh, that's even better, so now
Oh,
you
okay,
can
well.
actually.
No, I
Anyway,
just-
we're gonna leave it
yeah.
at that. I'm gonna actually phone you and just encourage you when all the people are around. And I know what it's like when you've got your house full. I'm not being mean to you, but
I know.
I think at some level, though, as women, it's important for us to look at when we enable others to take advantage of us and when we don't look after. And your health is a good example of that, because you've been so giving, so nurturing to everyone else, that there's not much left inside for you energetically. There's a point where it's important for you to say enough and to be the one that gets nurtured for a while.
Well, they're all.
And I know they have been doing that, but it's really, it's a challenge to let go of years and years and years of being the mom and the grandma and whatever.
Oh, and the friend, I mean, I look after her.
I know, and she is
My job.
the general manager of the university.
Yes,
Like, she
no,
has the
that's
official title. There's no competition, there's not even a close second. This woman's in charge of everything. All right, so
It's interesting.
you are, I've said all that with love, because I do see what's in your life, and I see also what's possible.
Well, it's easy. Got to avoid a little of that too, right?
Oh dear, I plug my, hang on. I have to plug my computer in. It's going to disappear really quickly. So, we're going to talk about craziness. Craziness. It seems like a strange heading to have. Craziness is I use the term crazy because it's kind of get your attention, but really what I mean by craziness is having those ideas that would seem to be audacious. It's really looking at who do you come to be in this world that's a little more out there. Can you, if you look at the truly successful, the inventors, the people that have made a shift in Earth and made things change, they're the people that actually don't buy the limiting beliefs. They're the people that just go for things. They're the Disneys of the world. And they ended up putting you into having to compete with Walt Disney. But he, for me, embodies someone who was really out there. I mean, this is a man who decided to build an empire in the ears of a mouse, really, if you think about it. How crazy is that? How insane. Imagine him going around getting funding. You know, I've got this idea about this great business centered around this mouse. And someone, after he died, said to his brother, "It's a shame that your brother died without seeing this Epcor Center built." And his brother said, "It's because he saw it that it happened." And so craziness and audacity are the things that start to take us over into the next stage. And it's, so we've done the what, and we've done the why. Now we're talking about how. What are some more concrete things? Or what has to be, like, what's the how of it? Because you can have a lot of what and why. And this is where we come back to the roadmap. But in order to really move forward, there has to be a certain amount of audacity, and there has to be a moving beyond the comfort zone when we talked about under courage. There has to be something that's crazy enough for me to stand in the front of the room, for me to make that statement. I'm a powerful speaker and writer whose words inspire millions. And even though in that moment there hadn't been necessarily anything, I was saying yes, and I am that. It already exists. When you have the thought of something at some layer of the ethos or the whatever it is in the cosmic soup, it already exists. In order for you to think about it, it has to already exist. So when you have the thought of something, it's already lined up for you, which is a cool thing. Because you don't, you know, it's fascinating. You don't get the thought unless it's already done. You can't think of the color red unless there's a color red. It's part of the interestingness of life. So it's bypassing the paradigms of what you might think you can accomplish, whether it's, these are your yeah buts, society's little programs that have got you. So Disney, J.K. Rowling is an awesome example as well, because I don't know if you ever have a chance to see the movie of her life, I highly recommend it. It's a television movie. This lady was on welfare. I mean, she could barely feed her kids. And someone said to her, "Well, what do you want to do?" And the story is very fascinating because it's, I mean, now you can imagine how much money that woman has. But in her head, she had this creativity and this imagination of, I can't even comprehend it, actually. I think in many ways, I have such a great respect for the musicians and the artists of the world. And the people that write books to me, especially books of the nature of hers that are so detailed and so not like anything, really anything else that has ever been created. So in order for her to move forward and let that come through her, because really, literally, how could you ever write a book like that or a series like that without it coming through you from spirit at some level? You have to be open to be receiving. It's fascinating. So craziness is having a little bit of, you know, chutzpah or whatever you want to call it. But if you've got the people around you that are happy with your plan and that think it's really cool, I can pretty much tell you your dream isn't big enough, because it's still comfortable for those that are around you. And that's not always the case. Like, sometimes it's not necessarily that there's anybody around you with any whatever, but there is a tendency of people to be comfortable with what they're comfortable with. So if you're planning on something and you've got people that you are accountable for, because some of us don't have the luxury of just doing what you want. You see, I've actually managed to get to a place in my life where I don't need permission from anybody. And I always thought I was kind of feeling hard done by because I didn't have the kids and my family my brothers and sisters all had their kids, and I was pouting a little bit in my head often because I would go to visit and it felt like I was left out a little bit. Only because I left myself out, not because they did. And I never really got it until I got to where I am today, and I thought, wow, that was masterful. My husband dies and opens the door. I'm free within who I am to go do what I'm called to do. So it's much easier for me to stand here and take action on my plan, because really the people that are affected are the people that I'm doing the plan for. And there's no children that are saying, you know, you don't have time for me. So in many ways, that was really well executed, even though in the process of my life, it was not that well, it didn't feel that well executed, but it's fascinating to me that I've come to this place with a commitment to spending the money that I have left on this gold, on me, and not having to justify that to anybody, not having someone else who has a little piece of that money saying, you know, but I think we should use it for something else. So I'm very blessed. And I am a little crazy. So, and the next thing within that is imagination. And what I'd like to say about imagination is the whole thing of manifesting something is dreaming it. One of the biggest aspects, and this is something I think that, you know, people have talked about vision boards, and I'm sure you've all, if you haven't seen The Secret, you've heard people talk about it. And my sense is more that it's about imagining it in your mind with great clarity, with depth of, can you taste it? What's it going to feel like? What's going to be different in your life? What's the taste of it when that celebration, when you're signing those books, what's that going to feel like when you actually sit each day? If you sit for 17 seconds and keep your mind focused on one thing, it's very powerful. And most people actually never sit long enough to think about one thing for 17 seconds. And if you can double that or quadruple, if you can get like to 68 seconds, the manifesting of what you want in your life is so powerful. I've started to do my morning meditations and just focusing on what I want and letting go of everything else, just really sitting there in the morning and just, this is what I see for my life. And really experiencing it. There's a man in this life, and we're on the ocean, and we're in the sailboat, and we're walking in the moonlight. And it's like, I don't know what he looks like, because I don't want to put restrictions on that, but it's like, he holds, it's like just the depth of that. And then it's me, at some level, speaking in front of people that are being served. And as I speak more and more in front of people, I get more experience, and I get better at what I'm offering. And I get more clear, and I get ways to move, and I get all the things. But all I need to do in the moment is to take that one step. Like, yes, I'm going to stand in front of that room. Yes, do you feel?
No, I'm just worrying about the time.
No, we've got about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, I was thinking.
They'll be fine. So, imagination. It's in your mind that the creation happens. It's in the mind of Walt Disney that created that empire. Your mind is so powerful. You have no idea. It's like, this is like the secret ingredient. And it's so easy, really, if you just, and you don't have to have like an hour a day. How many of you put off doing something because you say, well, I can't work out because I don't have half an hour, or I can't do this because it only works well if I do it for at least 30 minutes or whatever. You can write for 10 minutes. You can visualize for 10 minutes. There's lots of little 10-minute slots, right? There's lots of those pieces of time. We don't have to have, it doesn't have to be sequential. But you do have to do it. You do have to take some steps. You do have to sit down with your pencil and start writing. But it doesn't mean that if you don't have an hour, you can't do it. That's the trick. You don't have to it's just letting yourself have permission. Most of the workout people, and Stephanie's probably the person in the room that's really conscious of this, is that you can get a good workout. There's amazing, you can do a powerful workout in 10 minutes. If you do, you know, a good, it's not necessarily that you're going to know and touch your toe 10 times, but if you're focused and do a high intensity workout, it's amazing what you can get done in 10 minutes, and your whole body then is energized for the day. I used to be the, you know, if it's not an hour, I'm hardly, you know, I'm not doing it, because it's, I don't have, you know, if it's not an hour, I'm not doing my body any good. And then so nothing happens. So nothing, 15 minutes is better than nothing, right? Because you put it off and put it off because you don't have what you perceive as the amount of time. You do. You just have to make the decision. It's once you've made that decision, I'm going to speed it up again because we do have a little to finish, but once you've made that decision, it's just letting go of the roadmap, letting go of what you think you need to do, and just, when you said your yes powerfully, you don't need the roadmap. And that's a big letting go. There's a lot of courage around letting go of having the instruction book. You know, it's nice when you sit in your car, isn't it nice to know that there's a GPS and that you can actually focus on the lights instead of trying to figure out where your left turn or your right turn is? There's a GPS. When you have a GPS system upstairs all the time, but we don't seem to turn it on. It's like, where's your 911 spirit? Okay? Just ask. It's there. It's like free. It's like having to pay. You don't have to pay for the board of directors. You don't have to pay for all that. There's a team waiting to serve you with your yes. Absolutely waiting. So just decide, and it's the decision of saying yes as opposed to the doing that's important. It's the decision that makes the difference. The most difficult thing is the decision to act, and the rest is tenacity. Our fears are paper tigers. You can do anything you decide to do. You can act to change and control your life, and the procedure, the process is its own reward. Amelia Earhart. Crazy woman. Yeah. Right? How do you want to be remembered? When I get home, I don't want people saying, what a sweet old lady. I want them saying, oh crap, what's she up to now? And I want to be remembered for other than, for something more than what I've already done in this world. Part of it is getting to a stage in your life where you're realizing what's more important. But it doesn't mean that you have to wait till you're 60 to start to think of what footprint you're leaving on the world. When I'm dying, you know, when I'm dying, I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be, you know, worrying about how many hours a week I put in last week. When I'm dying, I want to have a sense that I emptied my knapsack, that it's empty, that I've used it all up. That's what I want to remember for. I want to die with my music still in me. I watched my husband die, a brilliant man, and it was so difficult because I could see, it was like, I'm thinking, this isn't right. He's so smart, it's like, this is not right. And I could see that. And it felt, I was so hanging on because I felt like if I could just hang on, he'd have these inventions that were in his head and he'd do some of them. But we can't hang on for other people. It's time to hang on for ourselves and realize there's a beautiful woman on Facebook yesterday who lost a 20-year-old daughter. Heart-wrenching. And her name was Jade, but his mother, oh my goodness. This girl at 20 had accomplished what she came to do. She didn't die with anything left in her. But she didn't know she was going, but she just lived her life full on. And her mother, through God's grace, was so able to let her go. It can't have been easy. But because she had lived so fully, because she was just so filled with love, her family was able to actually see and let her go. That's the courage in that whole sharing that she did was phenomenal. It really reminded me that yes, I don't have any idea when that call is coming for me to go home. You know, you might think that you're healthy and you might think that you're 20 or whatever age you are, but you do not know the time that's left to you. And not in a downer way, but it's like, it's important to act now. It's like this isn't optional. Somebody's waiting, you got deliveries that are waiting for you. I just encourage you, I really want you to see that and go for it. The greatest thing that would make me happy is to hear and see your be at your celebration party. And I just want to share with you a little bit about what I'm up to, and if you want to do some work with me. I'm about to create what's called, or I am in the process of creating coaching and what I call a wisdom circle. It's a 3-month program. Georgette, would you mind grabbing the purple sheets?
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'm going to have to go because I think that's
Yeah.
everything.
And so you can come and see me later, and if you'd like to talk about working with me further, that's great. And if it's someone else you want to work with, I just encourage you to work with someone, because it's the coaching that really keeps you from using those excuses. It's coaching that will help you actually take action on that plan that you wrote down. And so I encourage you, this is going to be an awesome program. We're going to have 3 months of group sessions, so 2 sessions a month. We're going to have 4 sessions, I believe, 4 half-hour sessions where we sit down one-on-one. And I'm also including a 1-hour get jump-started session. So it's starting in September, all just in time for like closing off 2012 with a bang. We're going to look at a lot of factors beyond what we talked about tonight, because there's a lot of layers, and for me it's about resilience, about forgiveness, about gratitude. There's so many other things that I just don't have time to talk about. And so the 3-month program gives me a chance to really work with you in depth. And if that doesn't resonate with you, I also do private sessions. So I encourage you to keep going with what you have. I'm going to read the quote. I've also given you the quote from Nelson Mandela, and it's actually written by Marianne Williamson. And I think this really resonates for me a lot, and it's called Our Greatest Fear. And our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we liberated from our own joy, our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So within what's on your what list and what's in your whys, I'd love to talk to you if you're not rushing out. If you want to talk to me about the coaching program, my phone number's there, or I'll be here for a little while. I so look forward to keeping in touch and seeing what's on your list and what's shifting in your life. thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. It's been my true honor, a deep delight, and just such excitement for everyone that shows up and for what's coming forward for me in my life as well. So stay tuned and enjoy and come chat with me. Thank you. Okay, so you're officially released. I'm here to chat today.
That was wonderful, thank you.